Okay. So, do you want to finish?
No, let's go back to it first.
This is the beginning. This is the beginning of your historical research, isn't it?
It was indeed.
Which started in this building that we see on the screen. Yes, number 50 St John's Park, the old vicarage of St John's Church, which in 1956, I believe, was opened as Blackheath Library. And in that
56, was it? As early as that?
Yeah.
yes, I think.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always ring me up and tell me I'm wrong.
When I remember going to the library in Shooters Hill Road.
Right.
It was demolished.
Yes.
Anyway, he's right.
Anyway, this is where we met, you and I, in this very first time. The room wasn't like this. This was when the library opened, and everything was very neat and tidy, and there's a lot of empty shelves. Well, it was a tiny room, and by the time I worked there, I started there in 1965, there were just heaps of stuff everywhere. And you came in the room in 1970, it must have been. I think I was sitting there, and you sat there.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
introduced by the great David Leggett.
by David Leggett, yes.
Great man.
Who was Greenwich's chief librarian, and was a great help to you, I know, and
He was.
and a terrific influence as he was to me. And David set up Greenwich's local history collection, originally in his office in the Central Library, which is now East Greenwich Library, and then in this room at Blackheath Library in St John's Park. And you and I met here when you were working on the Blackheath. Oh, wait a minute. I'll have to come back. I'll come back.
No, before. That's it.
When you were working on the Blackheath Centenary book, and the GLC commissioned you, I believe.
Yes, Ferber said to me, one of my first duties as press officer for the society, Ferber said to me, said, look, I've got a meeting with the GLC by then. Was it the GLC?
Oh, GLC.
Because Blackheath will be 100 in public care, 100 years old in public care shortly, and they want to do something to commemorate it. They've asked if we go up and give them some good ideas. So I went up and we met a splendid lady called, I can't remember her first name, but she was called Threadgold. And I made a joke about Threadgold's Thoroughgrip Garterets, which those of you who will remember just J.B. Morton, little column, she gave us a look which would freeze ice. So that was the end of my sort of joking introduction. But Ferber said, now what is it you want us to do? She said, well, we have no idea what to do. And I said, well, surely you couldn't have a little booklet about 1971, 1971. Oh, that's a jolly good idea, said Miss Threadgold, and that's a good idea. And Lord Burkitt, who was then the head of light entertainment for the GLC, he was there too. Very nice man. The son of a famous guy. And Bobby said, right, well, I think that's what you've got to do. And he said, I'll tell you what, Neil Rhind, he'll write it for you, and you've got to pay him a fee. I can't remember the fee, but it was worth having. Anyway, two things. The next thing that happened, he took me to lunch at Budastan's in Covent Garden. It doesn't exist anymore, where we actually had turtle soup, which was Budastan's great favourite when Marcel Budastan was alive in the 20s. That's where the toffs went from there. Then we came back and I decided I'd better do something about it. And I'd met a man called Bill Fletcher, who was on the committee of the Antiquarian Society. And I said, I'm going to write a history of Blackheath for GLC. Oh, he said, oh, you Denny, couldn't have the idea of talking to all people. And he said, are you going to mention Humphrey of Gloucester and closing a bit of the heath of the park? I said, oh yes, I'll go back to them, and even earlier. I had no idea what he was talking about. Anyway, I went in, I think he may have introduced me to David Leggett, or suggested. And David Leggett met me with Julian in that library building in St John's Park. And he gave me, and I really am very sorry, although I still had it, I couldn't find it in his distinctive blue fountain pen on a piece of paper, the key events of the heath over 1,000 years. And he said, if you know, that is so, you know, with the enthusiasm of the novice, I frequently look things up. And wrote a book, and it was enormous success. And I look back on it now, actually with a certain amount of pardonable pride. It's been reprinted in various forms up until you can see how it's grown, like Topsy. But I still have a sort of strong feeling for that. And I keep going up. You can get it on eBay, anything from £4 to £50. And it's remained in print ever since.
Yes.
Here we have it. There we have
That
it.
was the last edition, wasn't it? The 2002.
I was talking to a man called Louis Leff, who was the owner of the bookshop on the corner of Royal Parade and Tranquil Vale. You all knew of him, I feel certain. Had amazing white hair, and he used to do this all the time. A very sad tale, which we won't go into now. But anyway, I had enormous respect because I said to him, I've done this in the book, I wouldn't mind doing a little pamphlet about the history of investigators in the village. And I contacted a few publishers, none of whom was interested. One, I think, offered me 5% and wouldn't print more than 500. I thought, it can take a long time, not worth it. And Louis said, I'll pay for it. And Louis, bless him, paid for the printing of volume 1, he paid for the reprint of volume 1.
Right.
There we are. Volume 1, that's the original Lucky Cub.
Yeah.
And then volume 2, which cost him a fortune, he was appalled by the price of that. And alas, a few years ago he died in very sad circumstances, so I lost my angel, as they say in the theatre. But he was a remarkable man, again, sort of touching history. He was a clarinet player with all the major orchestras in the 40s and the 50s. He was a child prodigy, terrible parents who drove him furiously on. And you know, he played in orchestras conducted by Toscanini and Bruno Walter and all the great names. But it all became too much for him. He took his own life. But to him, I say thank you all very much indeed for Louis Leff. Louis Lefkowitz, of course, another East European Jew who fled, or his parents had fled the pogroms. There we go.
Oh. And you became a long-standing and very frequent user of the history collection,
I became really rather cast in the fellow.
which I'm going to flip back to.
I followed the
We moved out of that little room because we couldn't really accommodate the huge collections that there were around the borough of Greenwich in many, many buildings. So the council acquired woodlands in Mycenae Road, where we were able to gather in all of these pots of wonderful historic records. And we moved on to the ground floor to start with, and then in 1972 we moved and properly opened upstairs with a wonderful staff, including Francis Ward and Barbara Ludlow.
I was coming for it.
And yes, as I said, a very frequent visitor over the decades was Neil, working on the many volumes that he's produced. And so together, as the team of the staff and Neil, we looked at all sorts of wonderful, fascinating records, boring records, incomprehensible records. And he was there for hours and hours and days and weeks, quietly puffing on his pipe when he thought we weren't looking, but of course we always knew because we could sniff.
Yes, that's true.
But then, you know, he was in good company, because the first visit that I ever made to the Society of Antiquaries Library, the librarian, who everyone was in great awe of there, sat in the middle of the library at a desk smoking his pipe all day long. So, how times have changed. Right, well that's...
Yes, it was a remarkable period. Not only was I having to earn a living and bring up wife and 2 children, we never seemed to grumble too much, or perhaps in their duties they'll grumble, but it's fine, I want neglected them furiously. Through one of the great local historians, a man called Alfred Arthur Roger Martin, named his son Roger Martin, A.A. Martin to people like Julian, myself, Mr. Martin. He was a phenomenal local historian. I suppose the other one, a bit like him but more sensible, was John Kirby, being the history master at Rome and wrote a definitive history of the Roman school. But A.R. Martin was acquisitive, and he was rich enough to be very acquisitive, and he collected enormous quantity of material, some of it medieval, huge numbers of prints and maps and things, all to do with Blackheath and Greenwich. His obsession was really, I suppose, pre-1850 really. He wasn't quite so keen on the Victorian stuff.
Although his photographic survey of the 1930s are extraordinary.
If he hadn't been nagged into being a solicitor like his father, and he hated working for his father, so he became a treasury solicitor, drafting deeds and documents for government, he should have been a photographer, and a phenomenal quality of photographer. He had very good cameras, and he went all over Greenwich, Blackheath, and elsewhere, but mostly with taking pictures of buildings which were doomed. Doomed, he knew, because people were knocking down, but doomed because Hitler was on his way. He didn't know Hitler was coming, but thank God, in a way he didn't. He kept taking pictures, and a great many of the archive pictures he took now are the only record we have of large chunks of Greenwich and SE3. Absolutely amazing.
And he was joint founder of the Black